Early presence of Muslims in America. The history of Muslims in the United States is complex and spans several centuries. The earliest Muslims are believed to have arrived as part of the transatlantic slave trade, where an estimated 10 to 50% of enslaved Africans were Muslims, many from West Africa. These individuals often maintained their Islamic practices despite severe oppression and forced conversions to Christianity. Some historians suggest that Muslim explorers may have reached the Americas before Columbus, with figures like Estevanico, a Moroccan guide, noted as one of the first documented Muslims in America during the early 16th century. Additionally, there are claims that Moors expelled from Spain in the 14th century made their way to the Caribbean and Gulf regions. Immigration waves. The 19th century saw significant Muslim immigration, particularly from the Middle East and South Asia. Many immigrants settled in places like Ohio and Michigan, seeking economic opportunities. This period also coincided with the Great Migration of African Americans to northern cities, which spurred a revival of Islam among African Americans and the establishment of movements such as the Moorish Science Temple of America and later, the Nation of Islam. The 1965 Immigration Act marked another pivotal moment, as it opened doors for non-European immigrants, leading to an influx of Muslims from various regions including Palestine, Iraq, Egypt, and Southeast Asia. By the late 20th century, the Muslim population in America had grown significantly, with estimates ranging from 4 to 7 million today. Cultural impact and challenges. Throughout history, Muslims in America have faced challenges such as discrimination and prejudice, especially heightened after events like the 9/11 attacks. However, these challenges have also led to increased activism within the Muslim community for civil rights and representation. Prominent figures like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali have contributed to raising awareness about Islam in America. Today, there are over 1,500 mosques and Islamic centers across the country, reflecting a vibrant community that continues to influence American culture and society. 1. The legacy of early Muslim contributions remains evident in various aspects of American life, from music to social justice movements. The experience of African Muslims during slavery in the Americas is a profound testament to the resilience of faith in the face of extreme adversity. Enslaved Muslims, primarily from West Africa, faced a harsh reality that sought to strip them of their cultural and religious identities. However, many managed to maintain their Islamic faith through a combination of covert practices, community solidarity, and adaptation to their new circumstances. This speech will explore the various ways in which African Muslims preserved their faith during slavery, highlighting their struggles, adaptations, and the enduring strength of their beliefs. Historical context. The transatlantic slave trade forcibly displaced millions of Africans, including a significant number of Muslims from regions such as Senegambia and Sudan. These individuals were often captured during local conflicts or sold into slavery by other Africans within Islamic networks. Upon arriving in America, they faced a system designed to dehumanize and control them, where plantation owners sought to impose Christianity as part of their broader strategy for domination. The challenges of enslavement. Enslaved Muslims encountered numerous obstacles that threatened their ability to practice Islam. Separation from community. Enslaved individuals were often torn from their families and communities, making it difficult to maintain cultural and religious practices. Restricted worship. The plantation system severely limited time for religious observance. Enslaved Muslims were often denied the opportunity to pray 5 times a day or engage in communal worship. Forced conversion. While outright forced conversion was less common in English colonies compared to Spanish ones, many enslaved people faced pressure to adopt Christianity. Despite these challenges, many African Muslims found ways to retain their faith. Strategies for maintaining faith. Covert practices. Many enslaved Muslims practiced their faith in secret. They often engaged in private prayers and rituals when they could find the time away from the watchful eyes of their enslavers. The practice of taqiyya, or concealing one's beliefs to avoid persecution, became a necessary strategy for survival. Community solidarity. The formation of tight-knit communities among enslaved people provided a crucial support system. Praise houses emerged as spaces where enslaved individuals could gather for worship and cultural expression away from white oversight. These gatherings often included elements of both Islamic and Christian practices, reflecting the syncretism that occurred under duress. Adaptation and resilience. Enslaved Muslims demonstrated remarkable adaptability. They incorporated aspects of Christianity into their practices while striving to retain core Islamic beliefs. This blending allowed them to navigate the complexities of their situation without entirely abandoning their faith. For instance, some continued to observe dietary restrictions and maintain Islamic names while participating in Christian services as a means of survival. Education and oral tradition. Education played a vital role in preserving Islamic teachings among enslaved Muslims. Many had been literate in Arabic before enslavement and relied on memorization techniques to retain knowledge of the Quran. This oral tradition enabled them to pass on Islamic teachings even when formal education was unavailable. The role of leadership. Leadership among enslaved Muslims was crucial for maintaining faith. Many individuals who had been educated or held positions of authority in Africa emerged as leaders within enslaved communities. Their knowledge and experience helped guide others in retaining Islamic practices amidst oppression. Figures like Ayuba Suleiman Diallo exemplified this leadership. His steadfastness in faith not only led to his eventual freedom, but also inspired others around him. The resilience of African Muslims during slavery is a powerful narrative of faith under duress. Despite facing severe restrictions on their religious practices, these individuals found ways to maintain their identity through covert worship, community solidarity, adaptation, and strong leadership. Their experiences remind us that faith can endure even in the most challenging circumstances and that cultural identities can be preserved against overwhelming odds. In recognizing this history, we honor the legacy of those who fought to keep their beliefs alive and acknowledge the complex tapestry of faith that has shaped the African American experience. The story of African Muslims during slavery is not just one of survival, it is also one of profound spiritual strength and resilience that continues to inspire future generations. The Great Migration, which occurred from approximately 1910 to 1970, was a significant demographic shift in the United States, primarily involving the movement of 6 million African Americans from the rural South to urban centers in the North and West. While the narrative often focuses on African American experiences, it is essential to explore the contributions of Muslim immigrants during this transformative period. Historical context of the Great Migration. The Great Migration was driven by various factors, including the pursuit of better economic opportunities, escape from racial violence, and the desire for educational advancement. African Americans sought refuge from the oppressive Jim Crow laws that enforced racial segregation in the South. This migration was not a singular event but occurred in two main waves, the first from 1910 to 1940 and the second from 1941 to 1970, coinciding with both world wars and subsequent economic changes. The role of Muslim immigrants. 1. Early Muslim immigration. Muslim immigration to the United States has a long history, dating back to the arrival of enslaved Africans who practiced Islam. However, significant waves of Muslim immigrants began after World War II, particularly after the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, which opened doors for non-European immigrants. This legislation allowed for increased diversity within the immigrant population, including Muslims from various regions such as South Asia, Iran, and Arab countries. 2. Economic contributions. Muslim immigrants played a crucial role in filling labor shortages in industrial sectors during and after World War II. As many native-born Americans were enlisted in military service, industries faced a workforce gap. Muslim immigrants often took up jobs in manufacturing, textiles, and other essential services that supported wartime and post-war economies. Their contributions helped sustain economic growth in cities like Chicago and Detroit, where many settled. 3. Cultural integration. The influx of Muslim immigrants contributed to the cultural mosaic of American cities during the Great Migration. They brought diverse traditions, cuisines, and religious practices that enriched local cultures. For instance, cities like Chicago became known for their vibrant Muslim communities that established mosques, community centers, and businesses. This cultural integration fostered greater understanding and cooperation among different ethnic groups. 4. Political engagement. As Muslim communities grew in size and influence, they began to engage politically. Many Muslim immigrants became active in civil rights movements alongside African Americans. They advocated for social justice issues that resonated with their experiences of discrimination and marginalization. This political engagement laid the groundwork for future generations of Muslims in the Nation of Islam (NOI), founded in 1930 by Wallace D. Fard Muhammad, has played a significant role in shaping American Muslim communities, particularly among African Americans. With its unique blend of Islamic teachings and Black nationalism, the NOI has influenced not only religious practices but also social and political movements within the broader context of Islam in America. This speech will explore the historical development of the Nation of Islam, its core beliefs, and its lasting impact on American Muslim communities. Historical development of the Nation of Islam. Founding and early years. The NOI emerged in Detroit during a time of racial tension and economic hardship for African Americans. Fard Muhammad's teachings focused on empowering black individuals by reclaiming their identity and heritage, which he argued had been stripped away through slavery and systemic racism. After Fard's mysterious disappearance in 1934, Elijah Muhammad took over leadership, further developing the movement's ideology and expanding its reach into urban areas across the United States. Growth and popularity. The 1950s and 1960s marked a period of significant growth for the NOI, largely due to the charismatic leadership of figures like Malcolm X. His eloquent advocacy for black self-determination resonated with many African Americans seeking alternatives to mainstream religious practices that they felt marginalized their identities. The NOI established mosques, schools, and businesses, fostering a sense of community and self-reliance among its members. Core beliefs and practices. Unique interpretation of Islam. The NOI presents a distinctive interpretation of Islam that combines traditional Islamic beliefs with elements of black nationalism. Members believe that Islam is the original religion of black people, which was taken from them during slavery. This perspective positions the NOI as a vehicle for cultural reclamation and empowerment. Social programs and community engagement. The Nation of Islam has implemented various social programs aimed at uplifting African American communities. These initiatives include educational programs, health services, and economic development projects designed to foster self-sufficiency. The organization has also been involved in civil rights advocacy, particularly concerning issues affecting incarcerated individuals. Influence on American Muslim communities. Reclaiming identity. The NOI has significantly influenced how many African Americans perceive their Islamic identity. By promoting a narrative that emphasizes the historical connection between black people and Islam, the NOI has encouraged many to embrace their faith as part of their cultural heritage. This reclamation is particularly vital in a society where mainstream representations of Islam often overlook or misrepresent black Muslims. Bridging cultural divides. While the NOI's teachings diverge from Orthodox Sunni Islam, its existence has sparked dialogue within American Muslim communities about race, identity, and belonging. The NOI's focus on black empowerment has highlighted issues of racial inequality within broader Islamic discourse, prompting many organizations to address these concerns more directly. Political engagement. The political activism associated with the Nation of Islam has also influenced American Muslim communities. The organization's emphasis on self-determination and social justice resonates with contemporary movements advocating for civil rights and equity. Figures like Louis Farrakhan have continued to engage in political discourse, drawing attention to issues affecting both African Americans and Muslims more broadly. Conclusion. In conclusion, the Nation of Islam has had a profound impact on American Muslim communities by reshaping notions of identity, fostering community engagement, and advocating for social justice. While its teachings may differ from mainstream Islamic beliefs, the NOI's legacy continues to influence discussions around race, religion, and empowerment in America. As we look to the future, it is essential to recognize the contributions of the Nation of Islam in shaping not only African American identity, but also the broader landscape of Islam in America.